every leader to just, you know, push yourself a little harder and be intentional about connecting with your teams. Find ways to do that because people are really going through a lot, right? And they need that extra emotional, connection to help them, cross over the challenges that they are doing so they can perform better, at work.
Hello and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX show. I'm your host Chandni, and today we have a CX expert with us on the show. But before I introduce you to our guest, allow me to introduce you to the magic of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code digital CX platform available across 14 channels with 45,000 solutions created across 187 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 4 lakh visitors annually. And now for our guest, Ivy Ikpeme Mbakwem is the Chief Experience Officer of Africa Prudential Plc. She is a CX thought leader, growth coach, and author. Her passion for CX fuels her to drive customer centricity amongst organizations to drive growth. By leveraging disruptive technology and applying human centered design practices, she aims to create products that empowers teams to deliver the experience. As a certified DISC behavioral analysis trainer and a member of the John Maxwell team, she lives to coach and mentors teams to bring about a transformation in their personal lives and to liberate minds. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Ivy.
Thank you, Shandani. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Ivy. But before we dive into our interview with Ivy, don't forget to subscribe to Engati and tap on the bell icon below to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders around the globe. So, firstly, Ivy, congratulations from Team Engati on winning the Becoming a Woman of Influence title. Also,
Thank you.
how can organizations uplift women in business to liberate their minds in a way that contributes towards sustainable growth and empowerment?
Okay, so that's a really good question. And before we go into responding to how organizations can actually, help women to liberate their minds, I would first of all start by saying that the liberation of the mind starts with the individual first. So the woman has to, liberate her mind first. It starts from the internal, from within. And in this case, I mean, for women, it's a war. Women, we've fought so many battles in life, right? From age-old battles, right? And so it's important that we begin to dismantle all those limiting, thoughts and beliefs that keeps our mind chained, right? And so that's where it starts. And then we begin to embrace new thinking patterns that allow intentional growth. Now, once a woman is able to activate a liberation of the mind internally, right, what happens is that the organization can now take it a step further, right? And so organizations can support the women in ensuring that, we have, equality in terms of in real practice, right? So equal pay, equal opportunities, emotional intelligence, because women do a lot. There are a lot of women working in organizations who are really taking care of, they have kids, that they're just wearing so many caps. And so how do organizations need to support those women as well while they are actually, performing in the official, in the official capacity, but they also need to understand that they also have a personal capacity that they need to actually fulfill as well. So that support is actually required, across board. Yes.
Absolutely, Ivy. And I think a lot of companies and organizations really try to, help women in the organization achieve these goals, by providing basic facilities like crash services for women who have kids and a lot of these services. And I think that is absolutely amazing. So,
Yes, and so sorry, I just to say something else. So yeah, sometimes it's not easy to provide crash services in your environment, in the official environment, because looking at the structure of the organization, the offices, it may not have been planned. But that time, so being having flexible time to be able to attend to certain, to the family, to the children would also help. So is that's where the support comes as well, because the organization cannot completely change their structural arrangement to fit in a crash, so it might be a bit tough, but some organizations are already doing that. But that time, giving the support, understanding, that okay, woman, okay, so for these days you can work from home, and I mean it makes the woman perform better, because all the uncertainty about the children would have been taken care of, and so she can actually focus, and perform better at work. Yes. So that's just what I wanted to share.
absolutely. So, could you provide our audience with some tips and tricks on creating customer experience with vision and strategies?
Yeah, sure. So, I will start by sharing this quote from Steve Jobs. Right, he said that you start with customer experience first, and then work backwards towards technology. And for me, I think you also work backwards towards processes, towards anything that you want to put in place for your customers in the organization. So, with that thinking in mind, what's the very first thing? You need to understand who your customers are and what they want. So most times organizations build strategies without the customer in mind. And then they now, begin to, put in the blocks and, tighten the bolts after they have actually set up their vision. So what exactly, who are your customers and what do they want? That's the first thing that you need to understand. And then from there you can now say, okay, so let's now understand what the vision of the organization is. Do we need to do we need to amend it a little, okay, so that it can actually fit into what the customers want? Because in essence, the organization is actually, for the customers, right? And so they are the owners of the organization, really, in reality, right? So then you create your vision, to actually fit into what they want. So you're speaking to their needs, and so there's an alignment, right? And then the next thing is craft your vision statement and make it, aspirational for everyone in the organization, cross-functional teams, so that they can understand and relate with. It should be simple. It should be something that they can understand and aspire to attain. And then another very critical part is getting executive and senior management buy-in, because they are the ones who are the leaders who are leading leaders. And so you need their buy-in. And then, of course, very important is a plan to communicate and drive that vision across the organization. So that's where strategy comes in. How do we, drive this into every uh, person in the organization? So I used to write a blog on customer service years ago, and I called it um, service in your veins, right? And that means that you want everyone in the organization to have service in their veins. How do you communicate this? How do you drive it? There are areas where another strategy is, tying it into the KPIs of every touch point, right? So everybody knows that their entire existence in the organization, whatever they do, leads to providing fantastic service to to the customers, right? So that's another strategy. And then, of course, very important is, rewarding staff, who are actually doing well, who are giving amazing service to customers, who are making customers happy, and who are making the organization's brand, stand out. They should also be rewarded. Yes. So those are some of the strategies that you can put in place. But I would always say start with understanding your customers, know what they want, right? And then from there, you can now build a vision to be able to serve them, the right way. Yeah.
That's absolutely well said, Ivy. Thank you so much for that. So, how do you think can organizations leverage disruptive technology and apply human-centric design to create products that help make customer experience vision come to light?
Wow, that's like that's a very interesting question. Okay, so our world has already been disrupted, really. Technology has come and disrupted every single thing. So what we know as the age of the customer has changed. Customers are now dictating how products, okay, should actually be created. And so organizations who want to win are going to be thinking customer first, customer centric. Am I creating this product or this solution for myself or for my customers? That's a very important thing. And it also comes back to your vision. When I talked about creating a vision, it starts with the customer first. So, what's the best way to bring human-centered design into product creation? And the only way to do that is to apply two things: design thinking, from ideation all the way to when the product is tested and pushed out, and then customer journey mapping. You can call it customer experience journey mapping. Those are two things that should play very critical roles in every organization who wants to bring human-centric design to create their products. So that means that when you're conceptualizing a product, is your customer, is the customer experience team involved? Are you having sessions with your customers? Are you having focus groups with customers to understand what they want out of the product that you are actually thinking of creating? Because you don't want a product that's going to come that's going to be dead on delivery. So it's very important that the customers are the first engaged to understand, will this product really, serve them? Would it, meet their needs or their wants, right? So it's very important. And, so they're carried along. I mean, seek feedback from them. That's how you make it, human centric, by seeking feedback from them, engaging them, getting their and applying whatever it is that they've actually, shared with you into the product design. That's very critical. Now, when it comes to customer journey mapping of a product, it starts from even before the customer even, engages you. It starts from when they even begin to think, oh, I want this product. So, how is the entire process, the journey of the customer? You need to design it so that everything ties in and meets the customer's needs. It connects with the customer's emotion, and once you're able to do that, it means that you've actually brought human centric design to your product. So I would say that those two key things, design thinking, the customer must be a huge part of it. And then customer journey mapping, the customer must be a huge part of it as well. That's the only way to get it right.
Absolutely, absolutely well said. And I think the people watching the video are surely gonna get, they're gonna love these insights. So moving on to the next question, Ivy, can you tell us
Mhm.
about the blueprint of your book, A Bouquet from the Flames, and how can this blueprint help businesses in these competitive times?
Oh wow. All right. So the blueprint of a bouquet from a flames, right? It was based on my own personal healing journey. So it's a DIY healing book. And why would it help organizations? Every time you hear about emotional intelligence, right, the leaders being trained on emotional intelligence, which is very, very good. But you understand that our work now is so fast paced. We're in a fast paced world, people have a lot on their minds, even the leaders, supervisors, they all have a lot on their minds, right, aside work. And every day people get hurt, people have personal issues, people experience setbacks, and they're unable to overcome. So what they do is that every day they wake up in the morning, they, get ready, they go to work, come back. Those issues are not dealt with. And before you know what's happening, you have a bright, amazing person who has a fantastic future in the organization. That person's performance begins to decrease or decline, and no one really understands. The lady or the man is not talking to anyone, right? And so what happens is that the organization loses a star, and that person also in the end may even lose their job. Why? Because they're not performing and because of personal issues. So in the past, you would hear, leave your personal issues behind at home and come to work. That can't happen anymore, because no matter where you go, those issues go with you. So on that premise, I wrote this book to be able to help individuals to actually, start the healing journey while they're still working. So it gives you a blueprint on how to overcome your challenges, right? Overcome your pain, because pain is a limiting emotion. And so while you're still doing that, it also gives you the opportunity to build the right relationships, to communicate, to talk, find the right people to talk to, coaching, get mentoring. It just helps you to be intentional about your personal, healing and personal growth, so that you can still perform effectively at work while you are also growing personally as an individual. And, of course, acquiring healing in the process. So I believe it will help organizations, employees in organizations, because you don't have to stop what you're doing. You don't have to stop your work. You don't also have to continue to decline in your performance. With the book, you can actually overcome, you can grow, while reading the book. And at the same time, you would find that you begin to be more sensitive to people around you, and you can also pass the healing forward. So I believe it will be a good book for individuals in organizations, really. Yes, to overcome the personal, pain and setbacks, and also to perform, effectively at work and pursue purpose. Yeah, so that's basically what the book is about. That's Blueprint.
That's absolutely amazing, Ivy.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, moving on to our next question, how can businesses place the customer and CX on the front line of strategic business decisions?
Just by placing them there. Just by placing them there, really. So if we go back to, the past questions about, creating a vision, about human-centered design, and I talked about customer journey mapping, everything tied the customer. And I also talked about Steve Jobs and his quotes, about starting with customer experience first before, going back, to technology, to process. um it starts with the customer. So when you're looking at your front line, right? When you're looking at creating a strategic um, approach to making decisions, you need data, and you can only get data from your customers. So do you have a CRM application that you've been using to collate data, from interactions with your customers? Because it's only data that can make you make the right decisions instead of skewed decisions. So what are you doing with your data, your database? Your database holds information about your customers, about their behavior. You need to study it, you need to understand it. You cannot in any way make decisions today, or should I say the right decisions today, without your data of your customers. And you can get data of your customers from using the right CRM tool, and you're collating those information. Very, very key. So gone are the days where you just work organizations, even small businesses, just use Excel and just keep on, putting information there. You can't really tell much. So I would advise every organization today to invest in a CRM tool, that like an omni CRM tool that allows all your customer interaction channels to be, uh, to be integrated, right? And then you begin to get those data, mine those data, study the data, observe trends, and that's the best way, and that's the only way you can make the right decisions. Yeah, so I would say that's where I would leave it. Yes, data is gold. Data is gold today. So find ways to harness, to gather data and mine it, understand it, study it. Get in touch with your customers through the data, and that way you can make the right strategic decisions. To continue to keep your business relevant in the future.
Absolutely. And I think one more point here, updating that data is also important with time,
Absolutely.
because with changing trends, changing situations all around, as we can see, it's very important to continuously keep on updating that data also. That's
Yeah.
very,
That
very.
is that's very true, Chandani. So yes, I mean data can be absolute, right? So you're right. Updating that data, keeping it fresh is so important. Yes, you're right.
Yes, absolutely. So, before we wrap up, Ivy, are there any other sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with?
Yes, I always have some bites. Okay, so the very first thing that I would like to say is every business today should take customer experience very seriously. If you're looking at it as a nice to have and not a must have, then you've gotten it wrong. You need to take it really seriously. You need to take it as a discipline, as a strategic unit in your organization. Very important. You also need to invest in the right tools to empower that entire discipline. The right tools, very important. So you can get connected with your customers. You cannot in any way run away from this. And finally, on the uh, human-centered part, your design thinking is so important. So when you are creating your customer service unit or customer experience unit, it's important that you get them involved with your product design, product conceptualization. Let them be involved because, those in the product teams and the engineering teams may not really have that customer, centric approach or thoughts because they're building. So where does so you need to bring that human-centered part into it, and so you bring in someone with that, with the human emotion, to come in and be part of that experience from the beginning to the end. So and that's where they will add value to your product, development. Yeah, so that's very key. Then for organizations, it's important that I would leave you with this: employees are gold, right? They're gold. And it's very difficult for employees to grow if they're having setbacks or personal issues, And I understand too that leaders too are also very, very busy. I mean, everyone has a hectic schedule, and especially now that COVID, the pandemic has come, and we're all now really working remotely. Having that connection with your employees, with your staff, with your colleagues is so difficult now. But I would employ every leader to just, you know, push yourself a little harder and be intentional about connecting with your teams. Find ways to do that because people are really going through a lot, right? And they need that extra emotional, connection to help them, cross over the challenges that they are doing so they can perform better, at work. So yeah, so I'll just leave you with those sound bites. Yes.
Thank you so much, Ivy, for giving us your time. Your insights are really valuable, and I know our audience is going to enjoy this interview.
Oh, I hope so too. Thank you, Shandani.
Thank you so much. So we'll be back with a new episode and a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned and we'll see you around for the next one.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much, Ivy.